Hello everybody, welcome back to Sin City Living. This is Jason bringing you today's video, and today I want to answer a question that was emailed to us. Thank you very much for sending this email to us, Von Augustin. Haven't gotten a lot of emails from you guys lately, and we love shooting videos based on the emails you send us, so please keep them coming. So he's got a couple questions. Some fairly basic, but mostly based around the ratings. And he just wants some clarification on a few of the ratings. Thank you, by the way, to Barbara Squires, I believe it was, that bought us a couple cups of coffee. We appreciate that. And let's see. So his first question is related to the do-we-don't. And the way he asks it is why would the casino not rate a do-we-don't player for the full bet they're making? And he compares it to someone that bets a pass line on one roll followed by a don't pass on the next, and says that that it would have the same house edge as someone that's doing a do-we-don't. And that in the long run, someone betting $10 pass and $10 don't pass would lose more than a $10 pass line player. No. I'm actually going to go in reverse order on this. Someone betting a do-we-don't versus someone just betting a pass line, and in the long run would lose more. This player would absolutely not lose more in the long run than this player. But more to the point, it's not based on what you're going to lose. It's absolutely not based on what you're going to lose. It's based on what you have at risk. What you have at risk. And now we do look at some things like the one bet that has no house edge whatsoever. We do tend to look at that as an invisible bet. Now some places will rate you on your odds, but they'll rate you just on a portion of maybe half or something along those lines. Some will rate you on your full odds. Some won't rate you on your odds at all because they figure that since it has zero house edge, it's basically an invisible bet. I know some floors that will call it an even money bet, and what they mean by that is that over the course of time, the player will neither win nor lose on odds, and neither will the casino. So again, it's basically an invisible bet. Now, as far as the do-we-don't goes versus the pass line, well, here's the thing. Let's look at it with the point off. Okay, with the point off, there are 36 combinations of the dice. One of those 36 combinations of the dice will affect that bet. Just one. That's it. The other 35 combinations of the dice will have zero effect to that bet. None whatsoever. And it's only on the come out roll. So the come out roll, a 12, the player loses $10. Anything else, 3, 2, 7, or 11, that's a push. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, that's a push. And now the 12 is meaningless. So that 12, while it sounds like it would be a 1 in 36 chance as far as house edge goes, it's actually much, much, much lower than that, because you only have one time period during the entire hand from setting a point to unmarking the point. Only one time period during that entire hand where there is actually any risk whatsoever. And then after that, it's just a push factor. That's all it is. It's a push factor. So again, it's an invisible bet, just like the odds. For the most part, it's an invisible bet. There will be a small rating for someone doing this because they do have a small risk. The fact that they have no way to win, well, that is on them, not on us, because we are not rating you based on what your chances are to lose. This pass line player right here, every roll of the dice, they have the potential to win or lose. A decision can be made that actually makes a difference to that bet. 2, 3, or 12, they lose. 7 or 11, they win. So they're 2-to-1 favorites right there. On the come-out roll, they're 2-to-1 favorites, versus on the come-out roll here, they have a 1 in 36 chance of losing, and that's it. They have no chance of winning, 0. And over there, they have 2-to-1 favorite to win, and then once the point is set, it just depends. The odds are against them at that point. But the point is that every single roll of the dice can make a difference to that bet. There can be a win or a loss at all times. Right now, there can be a loss, no win. Once there's a point set, there can only be a push. They are risking nothing. They're risking zero. So why would the casino want to rate them? When we see this bet right here, we tend to assume, the first thing that is assumed is the player is attempting to play for comps. They're attempting to just get freebies from the casino while risking nothing. Or technically, risking $10 only on the come out roll and no other time. So really they're over the course of 100 rolls, they're probably risking the equivalent of about 20 cents a roll. Now, admittedly, they have no chance of winning, but if we had a player that was doing this right there, and some idiot rated them $200 a roll, which for craps, it's based on your time, your average bet, and how long you play. So if they rated them for $200 average bet the whole time they were playing, and they play for a few hours, if they do this and they play for a few hours, by the end of it, they might have lost a couple $100, maybe, but we're talking somebody that's trying, playing for thousands of dollars, and if they're doing this, they're probably trying to get hundreds of dollars worth of comps. Casino's going to say absolutely no way, shape, or form are they going to allow someone to do this and just rack up hundreds of dollars of comps. That, by the way, is the reason why, if any of you guys have played the bubble craps or play the bubble craps, you'll notice that most casinos will disable players' cards. They'll disable players' cards. Players' cards cannot be used in a bubble craps versus other slot machines at a lot of places. The reason for that is because of this right there. People would do this, rack up thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of points of play on their player's card with basically nothing at risk, or very, 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 very little at risk. And then they would just, try and get thousands of dollars worth of comps with, again, very, very, very little at risk. Win or lose. Versus over here, they at least have something to win or lose. Casino's not so much concerned about what you're going to lose. They're just concerned that you are actually trying to play the game. That player's not actually trying to play the game. And then he asks if I could go into detail on how to get rated. What is the pit looking for? And he says he imagines not a lot of effort goes into it. What happens if you throw in an occasional horn or field every now and then, or a mid-presser versus a power presser? The thing about that is, again, it's an average bet. So, and for some systems, for most systems really, the average bet does not go into play until we actually close your rating. Actually close you out when you leave the table, when you color up and leave the table. That's when the rating actually goes into the database for most systems, and that's when it's going to look at your average bet and how long you played. So if you come onto the table and you play $10 and that's it for 10, 15 minutes, they're probably just going to put you in for, they're going to put you in for a $10 average bet. But if you play, then after you've watched the table for 10 minutes or so, you start doing 78 across or 81 across, and you do that for the next 30 minutes, then there's a good chance that they're going to completely ignore that first 10 minutes and they're just going to rate you for $90, a $90 average bet. 78 plus 10 or 81 plus 10, probably going to rate you for a $90 average bet. If you're a mid-presser, so your bets go up and down, depending on how the rolls go, they may end up rating you, when they close you out, they may end up rating for $125 average bet, $150 average bet. It's just going to be, again, based on how you play. To my mind, possibly the least accurate system, some of the systems actually have in there where you could put their player's lowest bet and their highest bet that you see while they're playing in there, and the system itself will average it out. To me, that's the least accurate, because it also depends on the rolls. It depends on the rolls and how the table is going. If someone has a $10 as their lowest bet ever, and at one point they managed to press themselves up to somewhere around $1,500 worth of action, $300 on every number over here, plus that $10, and you put 15 in there for their average bet, or for their highest bet, and the system ends up, who knows how the system calculates it. Maybe they end up calculating out just for a $750 average bet. But what if the player was consistently breaking that $750 barrier. What, you know, the table's hot during that hour. There are only 3 shooters maybe. Well, we probably put the player in for a $1,000 average bet or a $1,200 average bet. So it's going to be a lot more accurate with your with the box actually doing it versus with the computer actually doing it. And okay, so then he asked if I have any bad boxman stories. He follows that up with anything happened while I was a dealer that I thought was a bad call. As a dealer, no, not on the table. Nothing rules related. I have seen a few times where a player was they were either allowed to get away with something behavioral wise or not allowed to get away with. Either they were allowed to stay at the table or kicked off the table when I thought it was a bad call. But that's also very, very, very subjective. As far as rules wise on the table that I have seen, nothing particularly bad. But I can't tell you guys a couple stories. A couple stories from some friends of mine. So some friends of mine when I first started dealing, they had started at a breaking casino that is, let's just say, not very good. And they had a player playing. In fact, that breaking casino is no longer open and will never open again. So yeah, it definitely wasn't very good. They had a player playing come bets, and they asked to turn their bets off. You know, maybe they're superstitious. Dice went off the table. They want to turn their bets off. Cool. So they turned their bets off. They turned their odds off, and the player wanted their flat bets off. And the dealer said that you can't turn your flat bets off. It's a contract bet. The boxman overruled him. Said, yeah, go. Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. Turn your. You can turn your flat bets off. That is a boxman that does not know anything at all whatsoever about craps. That is one of the most basic things you learn. It's a contract bet. It can never be turned off. That was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Had I known that boxman would do things along those lines, then I'd probably start playing there because you could just destroy the casino. If he lets you turn them off, that means he lets you take them down. So if you could take them down, well, then I would play come bets through the come, and then once they got to the number, I'd turn them off, take them down. Why not? You're 2-1 favorite in the come, then once you're here, odds are against you, so why not just play the come out roll, just play the come. So that's one of them. Another one is a twofer, actually, a friend of mine that was out playing a while back, and I'm not going to name the casinos or anything along those lines, but he started out at a very, very, very nice casino, very, very, very nice casino, Center Strip, and he's playing his standard bets, and his standard bets are fairly basic. I mean, he's a dealer, and floor, he's not going to stroke the dealers. Some do, by the way, but most dealers and floors are not going to stroke the dealers. So his bets are basic. He'll do across, maybe 160 across including, and then he'll do, a mid press. Mid press, he'll go from 30 to 42 to 60 to 90 to 150 and so on. So all basic stuff. And first, he had a dealer that was. Can you guys see my hand? Okay, perfect. That was this. The whole time. So my buddy, after a roll or two, says screw it and goes to the other side of the table. Of course, rotation comes, and that dealer comes over to his side of the table again. Same thing, playing one-handed. So my buddy goes back to the other side of the table, and he gets a dealer. The dealer now doesn't understand his basic bets. Like if he asked for 160 across including, she didn't know what he meant. She didn't know what he meant. She didn't know how to set it up. And it just turned out to be a mess. And they had a boxman sitting at the table. That's a terrible, terrible, terrible boxman. He had a boxman sitting at the table, and he's watching one dealer that is the laziest POS that anybody has ever seen, and another dealer that can't set up the most basic bets. So my buddy leaves, and he goes to a casino, a very small casino, way off the strip, and definitely no longer one of those super high-end casinos, but they don't have rookie dealers here either. And he's got his 160 across or whatever it was. I know he had quarters on the outsides. And he pressed up I don't know what the middle was, and it doesn't matter. So either a 4 or 10. Let's say 10. So 10 rolls. And he throws in his $2 and says, take me to 100. The boxman says, give him $1 back. And my buddy's like, no, it's a $2 vig. And the boxman is arguing with him. No, it's a $1. It's a $1 vig. He's like, well, $25 is a $1 vig. You only charge $1 for 50? It's a 5% commission. The dealers, by the way, are telling the box, no, he's right. And the box is like, I was a floor, and he names one of the highest end casinos anywhere in the world, really. And I know what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, keep in mind that he says he was a floor at one of the best casinos in town, and now he's a floor at a very tiny off-strip place. So, and he argued with my buddy, which terrible boxman for a couple of reasons. One, doesn't know the most basic vig on the table. Two, even when his dealers are telling him, no, this guy's right, he's still not listening. And three, he's arguing with a player. That is just all the way around. Terrible. So I hope this answers your questions. Thank you very, very much for sending it to us. We appreciate it. Please, anybody else, send us some questions, send us some emails, send us some strategies, whatever you want. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.